I'm cool with
I just kept recording just because I was like, hey, why not? I don't know if you guys
Yeah, of
noticed, but
course.
I was like, this to the camera.
Oh my goodness!
I did
of
notice
course.
that.
Yeah.
I was like, OS.
Jeez.
Silly guy. But yeah, Sil, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on here. We're happy to have you. Just a little bit of an intro for everybody about Lesilia Foster. She is a professor here at GCU, not tenured, but get there someday, right, Sil?
Yes, that is the goal. That's the
the goal.
plan.
So she is a professor here. She teaches lab classes and lecture classes. She is our special populations professor. She has her master's, which she got from where?
AT
again?
Still.
Yep,
AT Still University.
AT Still University, and it was in athletic training, right?
No, so I actually got my master's in kinesiology.
Kinesiology.
And I
That's
did a
right.
dual track.
That's right, and it was during COVID,
Yes.
if I remember. So it was online.
Yes,
Oh, you
it was
poor
all
soul.
online. It was hard.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Flat out. Like, there's no other word to describe that program. It was hard.
Yeah, a master's
hard.
degree online in kinesiology. That would be rough.
It was really tough. It's just, you just really have to lock in. Like,
Yeah.
you've got to just be disciplined in the material that you're learning and make sure that you are staying on top of your retention. I mean, and those are online. It just seems so much faster.
Yeah.
Each semester, you're just like, oh my goodness, we're on module 8 or we're in week, 7, whatever the case. And I'm just like, when though? Because we just had a discussion post. Like, how are we already here?
The discussion post.
So, it was a good program, but it was tough. I will say it was tough.
And you got through it.
I did.
I remember when I was a sophomore in college when the pandemic hit, when we all went online. That was rough. It went by so fast. And I had to take physics and chemistry. And
No, thank you.
I cannot imagine online.
No, yeah, because we didn't know what we were doing either.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like this is supposed to be an online class, so they
Yes.
built it around that. It was an
Right.
in-person class, and we all got sent home.
Yeah.
So everyone, their grades, everyone that I knew in the class, they just tanked or they dropped the class.
Yeah.
But I decided to stay because I'm like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I failed. But
You pushed through though. That's
I did.
commendable.
I did.
Yeah.
But the point is, I understand.
Yes.
And you were here too,
Yeah.
Kaylin.
Yeah, I was here right after. So it was 2020, but fall 2020. So they had it a little bit more handled, but even still, like, it was a totally different school. Like, I came in as a freshman just thinking, oh, this is what college is like. Then I came in as a sophomore. I was like, oh, last year was not real college. Last year was
No.
Did you stay on
No.
campus?
Yeah, I was on campus, so it was like if you had a Tuesday, Thursday class, you would go in person on Tuesday. So half the class would go in person on a Tuesday, the other half would be online, like on
Jeez.
Zoom, and then it would be the other way around. And then for some of the classes, they were just 100% online. So I would do a lot of like Zooms from bed
Jeez.
and fell asleep in a lot of them.
That's what we
with
all
my
did.
camera on. That was a little bit embarrassing.
Craziness.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about my master's program, though, is that I had to get used to the format because I did my undergrad here.
Yeah.
So, like, on a college level, GCU is all I know.
Yeah.
So, and back then, like, I won't tell my age, but we didn't have Halo. We had Angel.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yes. And so that was before, what was it, Loud Cloud or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Like,
I had Loud Cloud. You had Loud
Yeah.
Cloud coming in, I'm sure.
and
I
so
forget what I had.
there
It's
was a-
Canvas, I believe.
Oh, yeah, Canvas. So there was a transition. So, like, we went from, like, Angel, but I also was, like, familiar with Blackboard. And,
Right.
but in my master's program, we actually used Canvas.
Okay,
And
yep.
that, I liked it, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting. But then, when you kind of come out of that and you step into a different light. So, like, now I have my master's degree. Now I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with it? I, like, walked into this adjunct position and you're back in a classroom again. And you're like, what do I do in here? Because it's not my room. It's not my kitchen. It's not my office space that I've been doing work in, like, or schoolwork, whatever. No, like, now your whole environment is different. So with that also was an adjustment for me. I was coming out of being a student to now, professor and, like, teaching students now of literally what I just learned.
That's wild.
So
That's scary.
it's very scary. I was terrified in my first lab.
I think I had you, not the first lab, but the first year.
The
you were
first
here.
year, yes.
Spring
So
of 23, right?
I actually started fall of
Must have been
21.
21. Was that GCU?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's either fall of 21 or fall of 22. But I started as an IA.
Mm.
So I was an IA, and I was, if you guys remember Tony, right? I was his IA for Kines lecture.
Yeah.
And I had one Kines lab that I taught by myself. My first one, I only did 2 classes, right? And I got through that. So I literally was like, would pick apart his lecture so that I could teach the lab.
Oh,
so I just made it translate over because I was like, like in my mind, I knew what I was talking about because I just learned all this.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, but how do you teach it to others
That's hard.
literally were just in my position where they knew nothing about it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was tough, but Tony really guided me in that. So that was cool. He doesn't really know that because, like, it's not like we sat down and talked about it, but I was in his lectures because I was his IA, and I was taking down notes. I was listening to student questions.
Yep.
You know, I made myself do that. And then
really
from there, I
cool.
just kind of, I just
What a unique
rolled with it.
way to then like become a professor though, because you know what it's like from the student's perspective.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, it's nice. I kind of like being on the other side of the coin now.
Yeah.
I don't know, like there's a special connection now that I feel like I can build, and I seem to be building it with all my students because they come and find me. So
You're doing a good job, so.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Even when I had you before, you did a good job. And I know you were still kind of getting used to it. But even now, with special populations, you said it was really hard because it was unknown territory for you.
very unknown.
But
Yeah.
I got to say, at
wild.
first, I could tell you were a little timid. And you were like, I got to find my style. What do I do?
Yeah.
But you look a lot more comfortable up there.
Yay!
Yeah.
Jake would be
I
proud.
would say the same thing. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool. I will say that following semester, though, like my second semester here, I was Dr. Havenar's IA. Oh, my goodness. For exercise 455.
That's a hard class.
Yeah.
It is such a hard class.
Yeah.
But I could just walk in there and sit and listen to that man like nobody's
Yeah.
business. There was one day he was talking about energy systems, and he's got a passion behind that. I can tell,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. He
Sure.
loves, even at 250.
He
all
loves
about
that,
energy
right?
systems.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm grading papers, right? I'm doing my job, and I'm an IA. You know what I mean? I'm just grading, just typing away, and he starts talking about energy systems, and I stopped typing.
Yeah.
I shut my computer off, like I literally shut the lid, and I started taking down my own notes of what he was saying because I was like, I remember this, but the way you are explaining it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And from that day, I was like, I want to strive to be that type of professor where my students can understand a concept in the style that I'm doing it in, or like how I'm speaking about it or whatever. Like it made total sense. So I've gathered a lot of inspiration from other professors while being here, and I absolutely love our exercise science department. Like
So good.
Yes.
those guys are great. I love each and every one of them.
Totally.
Dr. Havener will tell you, like, we are the best of friends.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, Havener's class, I think I have the best notes from his class because it really is. You're just like, everything he's saying, you want to take it down.
Yeah.
But I really felt that too. I was, I said it before, I transferred from a music major into exercise science, and I remember thinking, my thought process was, I'm going into a science STEM major and I am not smart, so I'm going to fail. That's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
Because I was always taught that, like, you're either a creative person or you're a math person, right? It's like one of the two.
Yeah,
Right.
their brains work differently.
Yeah.
Mine works more linearly, like step by step by step.
Okay.
Isn't as
Yeah.
good if the creativity side with like music and stuff. So I know
Yes.
what you mean.
For sure. And so I was just so much like my mindset was there, and it seriously was the professors and exercise science department people who encouraged me so much. And it's just like genuinely good people, and it's because they exercise.
Exercise is the best medicine, guys.
Exercise is medicine.
Watch the last
I
one with
know.
Dr. Ziegler, and you'll find out
Exercise
yourself.
and medicine. You're
Yeah,
gonna be
you
a
will.
happy
That guy's a
person.
genius.
You're gonna be a
My
happy
Lord.
person if you exercise. And
Yeah, but
shows in the professors though.
all the professors are great.
Yeah,
though.
they are.
Yeah, they are. I will say, just like bouncing off of different professors, I think now I have a solid flow. Like, what I've told myself is, look, do not teach concepts and material or courses, whatever, as a review, right? We've got to understand that this is probably the first time students are seeing this stuff. So don't talk to them as if they already know it. You've got to ask them questions as far as hey, have you guys even seen this before? Does anyone have any prior knowledge, right? You kind of get a feel for everybody, right? You have to read the room. I don't,
Yeah,
I
totally.
feel like sometimes I'm the only one who's scanning the room.
Yeah.
But you've got to kind of catch the vibe because
Totally.
one, not everybody learns the same. So you can't just walk into a classroom and thinking that you can have this one size fits all teaching style. To me, that's mistake number one.
Yeah.
No, especially if you are teaching freshmen.
Oh, yeah.
I teach freshmen for the Bio 201 lab, which is human anatomy.
Yeah.
And no, you have really got to make adjustments. You do. And students have to adapt to you as well, right? They can't just walk in expecting that they're going to be spoon fed.
Yeah. Totally.
That's not going to fly, right? But we've got to find a common ground. So I don't like that philosophy of a one size fits all teaching style.
Yeah.
I don't like the walking in the room and just spewing all of your knowledge and expecting your students to retain that in one breath. That's not a thing. Break down concepts and then teach them how to study.
Right.
And after you teach them how to study, then you test them and see where their retention level is at.
Yeah.
Something that I learned from, actually, I think you guys know this professor, but Jeff Kosmuha, he taught 210, 250. He was a newer adjunct.
I know Jeff Benjamin.
Okay.
But I don't know the other one.
He said this in one of his classes. I was his IA for 250, I believe. And he mentioned, he was if students haven't learned, then you haven't taught.
Yeah.
We've got to take accountability. We can't just sit in this room and be all these students didn't learn anything because they simply didn't want to.
Right.
When that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We've got to do some self-reflection sometimes with that.
And I know a lot of professors that like to put it only on the student.
Yeah.
Or the student who only puts on the professor.
Yeah. And it can't. That has to be a two-way street.
Right. Accountability.
Yeah.
And who
you've
wants
got
to
to be
take
willing to,
accountability?
I know. You've got to be willing to learn what you're being taught.
Yeah.
And you've got to teach it in a manner of, hey, I want you to learn this. So let me figure out how to teach it to you so you retain it.
Yeah.
So.
Every student learns of a different perspective too.
Yes.
I'm a very visual learner. So if we're learning about what's something in Bio 201 you guys go over. Oh yeah,
We do
action potentials.
bones. Yeah.
That's a big one, right?
Oh, yes, it is.
So I remember asking my professor, I had Doc Ahmad Yusuf, did a podcast with him, amazing guy.
Cool.
And then I had John McCauley as my lab professor, who's a high school
I love
teacher.
John!
He's so cool. I love that guy. He's
Hi,
amazing.
John.
What's up, John? Yeah, tell him to watch this.
Yes, I will.
But I asked these professors, I asked Dr. Ziegler and XPhys, it's just because it doesn't make sense to me. When we go over it and they just put a bunch of scientific words on a PowerPoint, I need to envision where that is.
Yes.
So when we first started going over cellular respiration when I first got here, I was like, where is this taking place? Which organ system? Because I have to visualize it. And I have to go from the most the outside part, shallow, from the skin or from the muscle belly. Then we can start to dive in. I'm a very step by step by step, going deeper and deeper
Correct.
to understand how it works. And that's how a lot of students are.
Yeah.
I an XPhys, because I'm the TA in that class. I've had a couple people come to my office hours that need help before an exam and stuff. And I had this one guy. Obviously, I don't want to get too into it because of FERPA, but
Facts.
I had one student come in and I'm explaining the concepts to him because every time I explain something to somebody, I'm kind of figuring them out in their learning style.
Right.
Because some students, you just say the words, they're like, got it.
Got it. Bingo.
Other people, they just look at you and they're like, huh? They give you that look where they're just like, and I'm like, there's nobody home right now.
You're not actually understanding, but you're trying. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, in one ear, out the other type of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so with him, and a few others are like this too. With somebody else who came in, and I was going over the math side of XPhys, work rates and calculating VO2. You have to make it practical for them.
Okay.
So with VO2, all they know is these numbers and these units, but I'm trying to make sense of it to them. Like, let's say you're in a gym scenario and now you're calculating someone's VO2 and we have to write that down. Now we're converting it to METs.
Right.
And then we're converting it to daily calories burnt. Because all they associate it with is the lecture, my grade, academics. They don't realize.
Totally.
Right.
And by they, I mean, I do the same thing too. So that's how I know. But you got to connect it practically. So then they're like, wait a minute, I can see it now. And it gives them motivation to also wanting to keep learning.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
100%. And I think, you know what, and I'm glad that you said that, putting it in that perspective and making it practical. I try to do that for my Kines students. Kines is movement. Like, we have got to be able to see muscles move and feel that things are moving, right? And so, when we talk about things that rotate that we can't really see, right, because it's not as superficial, right, or we can't necessarily palpate something, right? You have got to paint that picture, but you've got to make them do it. You can't lecture everything.
Yeah.
You just can't. Not with certain concepts. Like, I think the first day of Kines, we go over, like, general terms, like anatomical terms, like movement terms especially. Oh, I make them get up and do it.
Yeah.
Yep, everybody abduction, let's
You
go.
made us do it. in
I
your
sure
class.
did.
Yeah.
That was before Eddie rewrote the course.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good.
No, exactly.
It's so helpful.
And I'm just like, you have got to be able to see it, feel it, like, put it, we've got to take it out of, like, this very tight box.
Yeah.
That we have to learn it this way.
Yep.
No.
Totally.
Like, some things are actual, they are visual, they are physical. We've got to be able to do it and see it sometimes. So I'm a firm believer in, like, let's get up and do something with it, right? We just learned this concept. Let's apply it immediately.
I love that.
Kinesiology for me, not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
It was so boring to me.
Yes. What?
So when you say you need to get people up and moving, it helped me a ton.
Good.
Because
good.
hearing about, like, the bones in your wrist, I forget exactly the pattern.
Yeah, all the carpal bones.
Yeah, it was so boring to me. I'm like, what are we even doing here?
Yes.
Like, I'm all about the sciences and, like, how the body works, but just knowing places, like little tiny bones, it wasn't making sense to me. But you had us use the goniometers. You had us get up, all right, palpate each other and feel for this bone. I think it was you actually in our lab that made us feel this tiny little one in here.
Yep, sure did.
And I forget
so
the name
fun.
of it. I'm so sorry. But I forget the name of this one. But I remember you had us.
Isoform, I think.
Yes.
That's so great.
You just unlocked the old file.
Yeah, I
memory
did.
bank.
Yes.
But that helps so much because some people, especially kids, if you're teaching kids, you got to get them moving around. If you just have them sit down with all that energy and just lecture to them, they won't understand or retain a thing.
Totally.
Yeah. The biggest thing with movement, right, like, and kinesiology in general, right, it's not just all anatomy. It seems that way if it's written that way, right? But we've got to know the anatomy, right? So we've got to know that foundation, and we have to know functional anatomy. Like, that's just how that is. Like, that is that 1, 2, 3 step until you get to actual movement, and you know what's moving and you know how it moves.
Totally.
And that's what I like teaching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I like biomechanics. I just hate the physics aspect. I hate physics.
Yeah,
I'm just not, I'm
that
not a
way
math
too.
person, but the only reason why biomechanics even makes sense to me is because I can see it.
Yeah.
I think that's what that is. And, like, I can feel the differences. So, like, if I'm saying, like, oh, hey, like, angle your ankle into, X amount of degrees in dorsiflexion. Like, tell me the difference between that and then, like, putting it either a little further or even, like, relaxing the ankle and, like, what now? Now go back in that squat position. Tell me the difference now.
Yeah.
So
I'm so that way too.
Yeah,
That's
to me,
great.
that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And I'm learning how to teach the physics part of it a little bit better. So I'm excited for next semester because I have, like, 4 kines labs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I during the break, I definitely will be brushing up and just making sure, like, okay, like,
be in it.
how do I make the mathematics of kines, right, fun?
Yeah, and also there's the connection of passion on the student's end, but, like, I will say you definitely glean that from professors from their teaching.
Yeah.
I have like a really funny story about Havener, and like maybe I'll share it on the next one. But basically,
People want to hear it.
Basically, I hated him.
Oh,
My first time that I had him, I was like, this professor sucks. And I was just so like, I'd leave his class just like, oh.
Just frustrated.
Was it the stretching that got you? You're like, I don't want to stretch right now. I'm mid-class.
No, I liked that. I really liked that. But anyways,
Love that part
we talk about it a lot. So next time he comes, I'll share it. But
I can't wait.
it wasn't until for me I began to really think about and consider, and it was because I had mentors from this school who really sat me down and like, why do you want to do what you want to do?
Yeah.
And why is it that you switch your major? And like, why do you either want to be an athletic trainer or a PT? And like, I had those mentors break that down for me, and they shared their own course and their own passions for it, and everybody's different, right? But just having those people who were just willing to relate to me, even though we were so different and our paths were going to look different, like I was able to find that passion. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, yes, I have to take physics to get to where I want to be going.
Right.
It's a rough one.
And you just have to, it's one of those things where you do just have to lock down and do it. But like,
Correct.
how great is it to do something that you don't want to do and come out the other end successful and a step closer to your goal.
Yeah.
And like having that
100%.
mentality has just changed my like perception on school as a whole.
Absolutely.
And it was like Havener who helped me find that. And so it was just an ironic circle around.
Havener's a full-time professor here, but he's like a part-time amateur counselor.
Yeah,
I
that's
know.
So true.
Time.
That's so true. He's a master's in counseling too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Of course
that's
he
right,
does.
because he loves
Yeah.
psychology and stuff.
Yes,
Him and
he
Cindy
does.
both, they really love psychology.
Yes.
But I remember going into his office. We did the podcast of him, and I'm just sitting there behind the camera because this is before I actually got in there. And then him and Jake are talking after the podcast is over. Then he looks at me and he's like, "What about you, Wes?"
Yeah.
And then it was basically asking like, what are you going through right now, type of thing.
Yeah.
And then he's giving me like that counselor look. And he's sitting there like,
Yes.
just whips out the pen and paper, starts going at it.
Yeah,
and-
sometimes I'm like, it's so hard for me to like not trauma dump, where I'm like, okay, I just need advice on this one thing. We're gonna stay focused on this one
Yeah,
thing.
I know. We're gonna say 0 to no.
Oh,
I probably bounce off of like 500 different topics with Jake. I just do. Like,
I mean, look at
That's my best
look
bud.
at the lighting in his office.
I
It's
know.
so warm.
Yeah,
As soon as you
it's
walk
so
in, you just
nice.
don't want to walk out.
Yeah, this is true.
yeah, I know.
It's a
I
cozy
chill in
little
his
den
office.
there, yeah.
Well, because I don't have one of my own here.
Oh, yeah.
So especially when I was his IA, I was in his office all the time.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
know.
I'm just gonna sit in
I
here.
know,
Is that cool?
I've been in there every week since the start of the semester. I forget what it was that he said during class that made me realize, because this was health promotion class.
Yeah.
And it was, talking about the motivational theories, and I was just like, oh, it like clicked in me where I was like, yeah, I need to meet up with this guy.
Yeah.
Which is just such a
I know he's like a big guy on like wellness, right? And like mindfulness and things like that. And we haven't had like that deep conversation with each other, but I have those same like values when it comes to that, or like those same viewpoints.
Yep.
Just wellness is important, right? Like when we talk about wellness, like I know that definition they teach you in high school is like your overall well-being, right?
That's all they leave it at too.
That's
Never
all.
go
That's
further
all that
than
it is your entire being, right? Okay, but what does that even consist of? Like, how are we taking care of this entire being, right? That we are. I'm a huge person of like self-care. Self-care is the best care, literally. Like, and it doesn't have to be, and I'm not talking about like facials and like getting your nails done and like doing your yoga outside on your back patio with like a view of your pool. Like that's not that's not where I'm going with that. Right. Like being well, right, is like you are holding yourself just kind of accountable of everything that's going on, right? Like you're making sure you stay sane, for one, and that you're keeping your morals and values intact, right? Like regardless of your circumstances, regardless of what you're going through, but if you are able to keep intact all of those things and like your foundational person, I guess, like your core person, right? Then to me, like, we're being well. Like if I can get through all of this crap that I'm going through and still be able to come back to this one focal point, right? Or home, and like find that zen, right? All right, cool. Then my life really can't be that chaotic. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's just that aspect of like wellness shouldn't be based on your circumstances.
No,
right?
it should not.
Dang, we're in like philosophy talk here.
It just shouldn't, right? But
good,
it's also being mindful, like, and being aware, right? Be aware of yourself, right? No response is a response. You know what I mean? Like, not everything deserves a reaction. Like, you've got to keep yourself in check.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, including myself. Like,
you need to have a firm foundation.
Yes.
Oftentimes we like to, like, for example, we're going on a weight loss, weight gain journey.
Oh, yeah.
Or
the craze.
Or want to quit drugs, social media, anything like that. And instead of addressing the root cause of the problem, we just keep building off this weak foundation that we've had for years.
Correct.
Because it's so hard to change it.
Yeah.
And that we end up burning out and then falling off and coming back to reset via homeostasis.
Homeostasis.
Or
and it really builds on. It's like weak foundation, and then, and I see this so much because you think about, as a person, getting yourself to change, but then also as a professional, as a professor, as a PT, as a health and wellness coach, like whatever it is, how do you get other people to change?
Correct.
And it really is. It's like. And I've seen this in myself and in so many people where it's like you have this weak foundation and you're like, things will get better if I add on to myself and take away. If I add this new habit and if I take away this bad habit, things will even out. And it just takes so much time to like learn that process of what is your foundation and what are things that are important to you, what are things that are not important to you. But it just is a process, and so many times there's so many sects of it that we're like, oh, this is more important, and what you prioritize. And,
exactly. And bouncing off of what Wes said about finding the cause root, right, or the root of something, I say that to my students in Kines as well. Like when we're listening to patients and clients, like we can't just take that chief of complaint and start there.
Totally.
That chief of complaint is actually coming from something else. And the reason why that we don't know what that is yet is because the patient doesn't know. They can only articulate and explain to us what they currently are feeling. That's it. And what they currently are feeling is the chief of complaint. So no, we've got to find the root. Like, you guys hear me say this in Special Pops all the time, the kinetic chain. That's a
you
thing.
Love that word. I had $1 for every time you said that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I know you'd be rich. Like
be able to pay for your class.
The kinetic chain, right? And you guys hear me talk about like functionality, like, we have to like functional movement or, proper movement patterns. Like I harp about that so hard, but it's true. Like that really is a big key on how we live and how we can continue to live well, and that ties into wellness. That sure. And we've got to be mindful of that. Like if your knee hurts, speak up, and you are mindful about it, right? So express that concern to the proper professionals, right? Don't just complain about it and then find your own fix, like, oh, and then it just so happens to feel better for a couple days, so now I'm going to go back, hit the gym, and then potentially injure it even more and make it worse. Like, stop taking it into your own hands when you're not equipped to do that.
Right. And Kaylin said earlier, replacing one thing with another, not replacing the foundation. Oh my gosh, I always can't help but think, when I heard that, I was like, you see that so much in relationships.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
One quote I heard from my friend's girlfriend, which made me crack up, but it was so true. She was talking about how her brother was dating this girl online because he's a big gamer. So he had a little gamer girlfriend.
Oh, that's cute.
And they got together and stuff, and they broke up. And so he was telling her about it, and he was like, she needs a therapist, not a boyfriend. And so it just reminds me of that, because people get in relationships to fill a void. Where it's like, I'll run away from this. I'm not happy. Maybe this person will help me. And it's not really, a lot of times now we see it's not really about the person that you're with, where it's like, I really like you and I want to grow and love you.
100%.
It's more so you happen to be here. I'm lonely. I'm scared. I have trauma. So let's hope this works and avoid all of the red flags that might come with it, or the hardships that come with it.
100%. That is true. And that's where that's where that self-awareness has to come in, right? Like, you can't just like leech off and like latch on to something else or someone else. That's not a thing.
We've all done it before, though.
Oh yeah, of course we have, because we don't know no better, right? You don't know you don't know until someone either addresses it, right? Or like, it's kind of like it comes back onto you, right? Maybe someone does the same thing that you're doing to them and you don't like it.
Yeah.
And now it's a reflection, right?
And you recognize,
So, you're like, oh, shoot, like, you know.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have real friends, then they'll tell you how it is and for what it is. And but it's up to you to listen, and it's up to you to either take that with a grain of salt and fix it, right? Or make changes, adaptations, however we want to call that, right? Or you don't. Like, there's a lot of things in this world that they are very black and white. There are things that are black and white.
Like your shirt.
Yes. And there are things that have gray area. Yeah. And that's fine. This is not a perfect world, and we shouldn't base our lives around those kinds of standards and regulations, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and society wants to paint this very like vivid, picture perfect image that, you know, oh, if you do this, you'll find your soulmate, or if or if you're doing this, then you're toxic. Like, I hate that word, for one.
Toxic?
Yes. Cut it out. Like, listen, nobody's perfect. Everyone's going to have a red flag, quote unquote. Like, fine. But what are we doing to either adapt or like make changes if it is hurting somebody, right? Or if it's hurting you, or it's not lining up with your morals and values, right? That should always be the focus. Right. Like, we should be able to circle back and be like, okay, is my behavior
sickness is coming back.
I know. And I forgot my water. Is my behavior lining up or out of line with my morals and values? Right. And like, you know,
back to having a firm foundation.
Yeah, and like how I see myself as a person and how I want others to see me that love me, right? I'm not worried about society, okay? I could care less of what society has to say about me.
I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, I need some of that. I very much care about what other people think about me.
I just don't. What I do care about is how do I carry myself, and you know, my reflection of me, because me also, right, to the people that love me or like my support system, I'm also a reflection of them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we are interconnected in that way. Yeah. Like, you know, I think very highly of my dad. You know, I'm definitely his extension, right? I'm his offspring, right? But in that token, right, in that same token, I'm also a reflection of my father. You know, my behaviors and what I say and what I do reflects off of his parenting and how I was raised. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm going with that. And I teach my track athletes that too. Yeah. So for those who don't know.
I forgot that in the intro.
Yeah, that's okay.
Actually, that's where we were before.
I know. And then we
completely off the intro because I was going to go to you and then Kaylin. But then I was thinking, I'll just save that for the end. But just so everybody knows, this is Sil.
Hi.
I feel like I got a good intro for now. And this is Kaylin.
Hi.
Kaylin Elaine. What's your last name again?
Gardner.
Kaylin, she is new on this podcast. We've been trying to get her in here this entire semester, but we just been kind of messed up, not getting the timing right. But welcome on.
Thank you.
She does have her own podcast called Personal Belongings on Spotify. Just look up Kaylin Elaine. I'll put it on the screen right here.
Thank you, Wes.
Amazing.
We don't have any new episodes this semester, so
go ahead and give it a listen.
No pressure.
Give it a follow. Yeah. She really likes the first one of her old boss, and it's literally titled a podcast with like my old boss or something.
Yeah, it's like a conversation with my old boss.
That's
that was
awesome.
a good one. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for that plug.
Go support that.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see her on here more often. So welcome, Kaylin.
Thank you.
Anyways.
Thank you.
Oh, anyways.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question for you to bring it kind of back. What made you want to go get your master's, and what was that process like for you? Because I am debating whether or not I should do that.
Okay, that's an excellent question. So after I graduated here with my undergrad, so I graduated here in 2013. My undergrad was like exercise science with pre-PT. right? I've always wanted to be a PT.
Yeah.
I still do, right? That's still a goal of mine.
Yeah.
I do plan to actually apply next semester
Yeah.
or like
That's
in a
awesome.
couple months,
Yeah.
maybe like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Good.
But what happened is that after coming out of undergrad, right, I was like making sure I was getting all my hours in as far as like observation. I took my GRE. I did all these things, right, for the application requirements, things like that.
Yeah.
And I applied to like all the schools in Arizona only, right? I didn't get in, right? So I got super discouraged.
Yeah.
I was like, how? Like, you know, my grades look good. Like, my GPA is there. Like, what? Why? You know, I was just devastated.
They don't give you a call back either. They just...
No, they normally just, like, send you an email. Or, like, a formal letter, you know, in the mail, right? Like, yay or nay sort of thing, right?
This was directly after undergrad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I just got really discouraged. And I was like, all right, well, you know, I'll just kind of... I don't know. I'll just kind of see what I can do. Well, the one that I got from AT Still, that, you know, that this counselor kind of gave me a little extra. She's like, well, you know, hey, like, you know, these are like my recommendations.
Oh, wow.
You know, if you reapply, this is what I suggest you would do.
That's very helpful.
Well, her recommendation was like to retake all of my science classes and get an A in them. And I was like,
not have an A in them?
but I had A's and B's, right? So like the ones that I didn't have an A in, it was like, go back and do that. But it was things like chemistry,
It's that
physics,
competitive?
like it was.
Word.
Wow.
It was.
Yeah.
So, you know, it and the requirements are so different now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it was like, I don't want to have to retake chem, bio, physics. Like, I don't have to do any of that. And her next suggestion was, oh, well, just go get a master's in one of them. Oh, so you're suggesting for me to get a master's in chemistry. That's
Oh my gosh. No.
to get into PT school? No, ma'am.
Oh my word.
No, ma'am.
She's Delulu.
Right. Facts. So I said, I'm not doing that. But what stuck with me was to get a master's.
Yeah.
So what I did, right, and fast forward a bit, right? So I kind of just took that information with a grain of salt, right? I kind of chucked it up as a loss.
Yeah.
And I found a job in medical communications, and I did that for 9 years. I was, I also, right after I graduated, I was also pregnant with my first daughter.
Wow.
So I was a mom, really young mom.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, now I just got to kind of work and be a mom. Like, there's nothing really left for me to do. But there was always her email to me just like stuck with me. And in 2018, I had when did I start that? It was before I was pregnant with my second daughter. In 2018, I said, you know what? I'm gonna get my master's.
Yeah.
And I said, let me shop around and look at what.
Yeah.
I found that old email and I said, this is from AT Still. I went back to AT Still and I looked up all their master's programs and I said, you know what? I'm going to do my master's in kinesiology because I still have a passion for things like exercise science.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm now reading about kinesiology and all these things, right? And it's really broad, right? It's not like this is going to get me straight to PT school.
Right.
You know, fine, whatever. I don't care. But I was that interested in it. And you could do a dual track. So I chose a dual track of sports conditioning. And then I did it in corrective exercise for orthopedic rehabilitation.
Ooh,
It's a mouthful. Which
I like that though.
I'm grateful that
Yeah,
it's not
sounds
like
scientific.
on my degree because like the print would have to be like
It'd run
this
off the
big. Yeah, it'd
page.
run off. So that's cool and all, but I was like, that potentially will help me get somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
What is
And-
a dual track?
yeah.
Real quick.
Meaning like, you know how like you can like minor in something or have an emphasis in something.
Right.
Right.
So I just had 2 emphases.
Oh,
I think
I
GCU's
see.
starting a dual track
Yeah.
option like
They
next year or something like that.
Something.
There was like a meeting about it about like it's not a double major. It's not a major
Right.
and a minor. It's
It's
dual track.
like an additional concentration to your major.
Undergraduate or master's?
This was master's.
Master's. Okay.
Yeah.
see.
You can do it as an undergrad.
Yeah.
But they do have those options
Right.
when you go for your master's.
Right.
So that's
Okay.
what I did, right? So I started that process. I sent in my application, like whatever fees they needed. I sent my like official transcripts, whatever. And probably like 3 weeks later, I was accepted.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And at first, like, we were set up to, like, go in person. And then COVID happened.
Wow.
And they moved our program online.
It happens so fast.
Yeah.
Though.
And it's an online program. Like, now it's just,
Really?
That's what it is.
it's
Wow.
online. It's online. So, yeah. But yeah, so I was working and doing my master's and taking care of, at that time, like a 4-year-old, almost 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And then toward, I want to say, my second daughter was born like May. She was born May of 2018. So a couple months before, like, I'm like full blown pregnant at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm still like turning in papers. I'm still like,
Just waddling around doing
Yeah.
kinesiology on yourself.
no, literally, I was in active labor, and like a couple days before.
Yeah.
So like a couple days before, I was not feeling it. I was like, yo, like, I can't do this. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I still got to submit this paper though. Submitted it. And then I was like, someone please take me to urgent care. Like,
That
I
is
don't feel well.
crazy.
Something's happening.
Talk about keeping
Wow.
yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, you have to be self-disciplined.
Yeah.
You have to be self-disciplined. Like, there's a time and a place when we have to prioritize, right?
Yep.
And me, as like a crazy college student,
Yeah.
I only prioritized my work and then, or like my study
Yeah.
and athletics,
Yeah.
right? Like, I ran track and field here. So the first team at that were the
Wow.
originals. Yes.
Wow. That's
2010.
impressive.
So first
What?
team.
Wow. Yeah, I remember
Round of
you always
applause.
talk about it.
Oh,
like,
yeah. And I put it in my bio every semester.
Really?
Yeah, because that's like my fun fact.
Yes, I did. I read your bio. I remember reading that. Yeah.
It's my fun fact.
Now that you're saying that,
So-
yeah, I do remember
But that was tough, right? So like
Wow.
I'm used to that kind of just like tough skin, like building tough skin and like mental toughness
Yeah.
because I was a student athlete. But now I'm a student mom.
Yeah.
Student athlete
So
mom.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that to answer
mentality.
your question, the application process was easy,
Yeah.
but being in that actual program itself it was really hard because there were times where, unfortunately, my computer crashed or my daughter literally deleted
No.
a file that I needed to submit, and I literally only had 10 minutes to submit it. Like panicking and trying to retrieve that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
things like that. Like
Yeah,
it was
totally.
mom things, or just simply I was just too tired. And then when I had the baby
Yeah.
and I'm still going through this program, I'm like half asleep, trying to finish DQs, like,
Wow.
things like that. Like,
It's hard.
so it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, but I wouldn't go back and change it.
Yeah. Wow.
I just wouldn't.
What a story. That is a unique story
It's
to
crazy.
go get your master's for sure. And what a story of just resilience and perseverance, because that is really
Yeah.
like
You're a hustler, so.
holy cow.
And I had to really hustle, especially going into that last year of my master's program,
Yeah.
because in June of 2020, we unexpectedly lost my mom.
Wow.
And it was the day after her birthday, and she had an aneurysm rupture. Yeah, it was bizarre. And it was just really sudden. It was horrible. The most traumatic day of our lives. And I wanted to quit. I remember like being in the car and like on the phone with my best friend, and hi Cam, what up girl?
Oh.
That's my bestie. I love her.
Give her a little
Oh,
sorry.
I know. Watch this. I'm gonna call her later and be like, girl, watch the podcast.
As
And
you
refer
should,
your
yeah.
friends to it, too.
Yes, please.
As you should.
But I remember like talking to her on the phone, and I'm driving. I forgot where I was driving to, but I'm just driving, and I'm like, hey, like I think I'm gonna ask for like an academic bereavement. Like, this is I can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
how? There's no way. Like, there's so much going on. Like,
How old was your kid at the time when this
my oldest had just turned 6, and then my little one was 2.
How do you tell that to them?
It was hard. My 6-year-old, my 2-year-old didn't understand at the time.
Right.
Like, she knows who her grandmother is right now.
Yeah.
But she doesn't feel grief and like all that stuff. But my oldest does. My oldest was very close with my mom. So that probably, aside from my mom's actual passing, that's probably the second hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, is to tell my 6-year-old that your favorite person in the world is not here. And we just saw her the previous day and partied with her.
Wow.
We had her birthday, and it was literally the next day.
It's just something that comes so suddenly. Like,
it was so crazy. It's just, and it's still, it feels like a freak accident, and it just feels like a dream all the time. And
hard to process.
Yeah.
Even now, I can imagine.
And even with my now 11-year-old, you know, it's, you know, and she has her moments, and, you know, we work through that, you know, but that was hard. But, you know, me telling my best friend, like, forget it, I'm done. Like, I shouldn't even started this program in the first place. Like, what was I thinking? Like, I was so discouraged. I was so hurt, you know, wasn't in the great mental space at all. You know, who would be after losing somebody. And she told me, she goes, your mom would absolutely smack you across the face right now if you were to quit right now. She's like,
so blunt but so real.
I know. And I appreciate her telling me that. And that's something we can do with each other, right? Like, if you have that best friend, that close person to you, you can tell them what's real. And she had to tell me that. And because I had to snap out of it. She was like, you are your mom. Like, there's no way that she would let you quit and just be like, all right, done with this, because of, you know, anything. You know, it doesn't even have to be I guess leveled or graded on circumstance. There doesn't have to be a degree or severity of it, right? It's just simple. Like, so what I picked up and learned was, it shouldn't matter what you're going through and how, you know, just how your life is moving. How do you want to move? So at the end of all of that, what are we going to take? Like, what's the main takeaway from all of these negative things or hurtful things or traumatic things, whatever? What's the main takeaway here? Are we going to stay in this very, like, dark space, or are we going to decide to address all these things, and at your own pace, right? One at a time, however you deal with that. And how do we move forward? Because at the end of the day, you should always want to move forward. It has to be a willingness. Can you grieve? Yes. Are we still grieving? Absolutely. You know, Christmas is my mom's favorite holiday. Every Christmas is hard, and that's not really going to get any easier. But are we just going to sit around the Christmas tree and just, like, not enjoy each other and, like, not enjoy the family time, and, like, oh no, let's not do hot cocoa anymore because that was her favorite thing to do? No. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's you can just change that perspective as you will. And it doesn't have to be sad. It doesn't have to, you know, it doesn't have to be that way. You make things how you want them.
So you finished out your master's.
I did.
Through that. Wow.
I did. I finished it. I graduated December 13th, actually, which is your graduation.
That is, this Friday.
Oh, wow.
Friday the
So
13th.
I actually graduated that same day, but in 2020.
Wow.
Our graduation was virtual. It was really cute. They had all of, like, our little profile pictures up, and, like, when they called your name, they posted your picture, and then they showed you on a live screen.
Really?
So
That's
if
kinda
you
cool.
if you wanted to buy, like, your cap and gown, you could, and I did, because you know, it's kind of, you know, it's just like it's a token, right?
Especially for your masters too.
So, you know, I have my sash, you know, whatever that thing is called. But I'm like there, and I'm like, you know, have my little hat, and I'm like throwing the peace sign. I'm like, I did it.
Oh, that's great.
Especially after everything you went through, the amount of joy you must have had, like,
Oh
power
my
you
God.
felt like I
I
did.
cried that day.
I felt like chills thinking about that.
I cried that day. And what's crazy is that I did my graduation ceremony on my lunch break. I was working, but we were working from home because of COVID. So I literally had my laptop off to the side, aside from, like, my actual work computer. And I had asked to alter my lunchtime because I was graduating. So of course I was a manager myself, but I had to, like, run that through my boss. So my boss was like, yes, oh my God, congratulations. Like,
that is so
She was like, "Can we have a Zoom call and like watch you like graduate?"
Oh,
And I was
What
like,
were you doing? What was your
sure.
job at the time?
medical communications.
right,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
So we were like a third party medical answering service. So we were paging doctors and nurses and like all
Wow.
like we literally were like the middlemen for like
Gotcha.
certain hospitals and like different organizations, facilities, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Very cool.
I was a manager,
Yeah.
so I had like my own team. So at that time, now it's just like keeping up with your team, making sure their productivity is up, that they're following all the criteria or like meeting standards and stuff. I'm giving like performance appraisals, things
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah. Cool.
I did enjoy my time, but it was time to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was time to go.
Totally.
I put in some good time, but
Good.
I couldn't be behind the computer anymore.
No, you
I
seem
just
like the
couldn't
type
do
that needs
it.
to move.
I have to move.
Yeah, you look very
absolutely. It's
active.
important.
Yes,
It's
I have to
important.
move. I'm in the gym. I have to move.
Yeah,
like,
I see
and
too.
I have to see people.
Yes, be social and
Like,
interactions,
you guys know me by now. Like,
Yeah.
I have to get out and mingle with people, see
Yeah.
people's faces, like
Yeah.
know people's names, like,
Mhm.
I have to. So yeah, I eventually did have to leave, and when I left, I landed here.
So,
Wow.
what would, circling back to what she was asking, what would you recommend for us in terms of looking for, or maybe even going down the master's program? How do we figure out like where we want to go in life?
Yeah.
What steps can we take?
I would say the best place to start is figuring out, okay, where do I want to end up futuristically? For example, if you guys, if someone was like in finance and their undergrad was like, I don't know, accounting, right? Whatever. What do you want to do with that specifically though? Right? Do you want to help people, help them do their taxes? Do you want to, guide people on how to start their 401k? Like, do you want to actually finance businesses or be in charge of, businesses, their finances and things like that? What do you want to do? Right? Find something specific that you want to do. Right? And then you comb through programs, right? And you're like, okay, what does this consist of? Is this going to help me get me to where I want to go? Now, the only tricky thing that will happen is that some things are broad, like kinesiology. But what I say to that, right, take a risk. I'm a risk taker.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm a risk taker. Take the risk, because although sometimes we can't always like match the specifications of something, right? We can always, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
You can take that specific skill set and apply it elsewhere still.
Yeah.
You don't have to be confined in a box. So my first step to you guys is you can be specific, but don't put yourself in a box.
Yeah.
Right? So like use specifications as a guideline, right? Or like let it guide you, right? As you guys are combing through different programs, right? To find your fit, right? Just use it as a guideline. But whatever you choose after that, just stand in your conviction. Like, be confident in that.
Yeah.
That's such a hard thing to do.
It is.
I remember I heard a quote. I love watching like Alan Watt videos.
Okay,
If you guys know
okay.
who that is. You've probably heard a quote here and there because he's pretty big. But he said once when he has students come to him for vocational guidance, he just says, "What would you want to do if money were no object?" And he says that they say, I want to be painters.
Yeah.
I want to live an outdoors life. I
Yeah.
want to maybe do photography or travel, everything like that. And he says, okay, so just go do it. He says, forget the money, become a master at it, because if you are a master at it, somebody will pay you a fee for that, because everybody's interested in something.
Correct.
Yeah.
Everybody's interested in everything. So
Correct.
whatever you're interested in, you'll find that other people are also interested in. But I'm a big believer in that too, but very hopeful for the future. But obviously I find it hard, like for example, my mom, not to call her out, but she says, Wes, we need to be realistic. We need to find a good job that's stable, gives you good benefits, good money, so you can pay off your student loans, go get your own house. And quite frankly, she didn't say this, but this field, it's hard to work your way up to get good benefits, good money. So you really have to know you want to stick with this.
Yeah.
You have to have that self-efficacy, that strong foundation, that you can do this and get through the hardships, which is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be hard. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, and this is where we have to, even in our youth, right? We have to really instill grit. Like, I come from a long line of getting it done. Like, you know, we grind, you know, we hustle. That's just how my family is. That's kind of how we've always been. You know, we get in there, but you have to expect it to be hard, because it's all about how you're going to handle it. Right? So just anticipate, like, you have to look forward to it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to say anticipation, but look forward to something being hard.
Yeah.
Because to me, that just builds your mental toughness, right? Like, I'm not saying you got to be like this hard, stone cold shell, but I'm saying, like, prepare yourself.
Yeah.
You know, when we circle back to things like being mindful, right, and being aware, prepare yourself. It's going to be hard, right? No one ever said that this was going to be easy, regardless of what field you go through, right? So what I say to you, Wes, is, listen, if you want to be in this field, then just do that. For the simple fact, because, like, we don't have to follow a ladder. We don't have to follow a ladder in exercise science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least to my knowledge and to my opinion, you don't have to follow a ladder, right?
Yeah, there's
like,
a lot of opportunities in this field for sure.
That's what I'm saying. So why do you have to go up the ladder to make good money and to have good benefits? No, you don't. You can have your own gym and be and have all these clients and be your own boss and make the money that you want to make.
No, I did talk to Eddie about that. PT clinic,
Good.
gym, whatever, because I know Tony does that. Eddie has his own PT clinic. And really, it's like finding the money for that is hard. And I was telling Eddie, I was driving around. I came from REI, which is in Paradise Valley.
Okay.
It's like 25 minutes away. It's like this outdoor shop. And so I came back to GCU. It's like a 30-minute drive, and it was rush hour. And so all the streets and highways are busy. And I'm just driving through the streets because it was the fastest way. And I see all the little businesses there, like fix your watch, fix your jewelry, and there's like no cars parked there.
Yeah.
And then I look at the store next door, Dutch Bros, full of cars.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, how can I own my own business and then also get people to come into that too?
Yeah.
Because it's a risk.
Yeah.
To take that risk, put money into something that you love, and maybe it will fail.
Yeah.
Right.
You just gotta be in the field where people will demand or they'll want your services.
Yes.
And in our field, exercise is growing, but it's also very hard to get people to comply and adhere to that.
For sure.
So
Correct.
it is
But
tough.
it's always needed. It's
Yeah.
never gonna go out.
Yeah.
And something too is like with taking risks and with expecting things to be hard, failure is inevitable with that. And it's something that is, I think, really hard for perfectionists to view and like perfection-minded students.
Yes.
And I wouldn't say I'm completely a perfectionist, but I'm definitely like
my freshmen are.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
And it's hard because you do have to expect failure and you have to expect like the resistance to be so hard to where you're like, you're questioning yourself. And I think for me, I'm not quite a perfectionist, but in my experience coming through it was just this, I came in with this mentality of, okay, I know I want to do PT and exercise because it's something that I'm passionate about for a career, more so than what I was before music. But I'm not smart, so like I'm probably gonna fail. That's how I came into it. And then I had mentors who like built me up, and they were like, no, like you can do this, you know. So it was like, okay, my self-belief was built. And then for me, hitting the resistance was when it was a mix of things. My first semester into it, I struggled a lot in the classes and had great professors who helped me get back on my feet. And then I got sick. And I failed all my classes because I was sick, so I couldn't show up to class. And so I had 2 years of that, and then now I'm back in school. But even now, where I'm at now, like I have a deeper passion for what I want to do because of the failures that I went through and because of the hard. And so I have a different recognition where I'm not the most gritty person in the world, and I'm also not a perfectionist. And so sometimes my motivation is like up here and then it's down here.
Yes.
And I've really realized the importance of discipline, not motivation, right?
Yeah.
But there's a question to this. I know that there are a lot of other students who have gone through really hard things and struggle with that balance of my life is a mess, I'm overwhelmed with so many aspects of my life, and I still have to turn in a paper on Sunday and I have an exam on Tuesday. Like, what would you recommend for where we're at now? Not Wes anymore, but
Right.
yeah, for
Don't
those
remind me.
students who feel that pressure of balancing life and school, but realizing that they have to put 110% into school, and that means like sacrifice, it means failure,
Right.
it means resistance.
Right. Turn to your support system. If you don't have one, build one. Right? Like, we have got to stop, like, as humans, right? Like, telling ourselves that we can do everything and that it's only us, right? No one else is going to do it for us, like that sort of deal, right? Which, okay, fine, valid. Like, yeah, no one's going to do your paper for you. I get that, right? But we have got to stop thinking that we don't have help. Reach out. You have got to communicate. You've got to communicate. You have to communicate. I tell you guys this in the first day of class. My biggest thing is communication. Come tell me so I can help you. I am a resource, right? As your professor, I'm not just your professor. I'm also a resource. I'm also a link in your networking, right? I tell students all the time, letters of rec, or if you are looking for a specific person in a specific field, hey, do you know this person or do you know people in this profession? Yeah, I do. Let me reach out and see what I can do to help you, right? We have got to be able to ask for help. It's really hard to do, the craziest things, the hardest things to say, right? These phrases that are hard to say is, I need help, I love you, and I'm sorry. Right?
Ooh, give me the ick just thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Makes your skin crawl, okay?
Yeah.
I used to be that person where, like, I don't like asking for help. And there's times where I don't like asking for help, right? But if I'm going to tell my students, like, I'm here for you, right? Reach out to me, okay? I've got to be able to do the same, right? That has to be both ways, right? There has to be a transparency there. So that's my biggest number one advice to you for that, or recommendation, is use your support system, right? When you're in those dark spaces, mental health sucks. Like, you've got 3-4 assignments that are due, right? You're losing track of time. You're not studying well, whatever, it could be personal things going on, right? Whoever can best help you in certain aspects, go to that person, right? If you talk to your best friend about your relationship problems and that's what's going on, then seek him or hers help. Does that make sense? Like, we have to advocate for ourselves as well. As people, we have to advocate for ourselves. I need help. Can you help me with this? That's so important. Because if people really love you and you really have people in your corner, then they will just help you.
Yeah.
Like, we've got to find solutions. We have to stop creating a bigger problem.
Yeah.
We don't create problems. We find solutions.
Yeah.
It's hard to find people. Sorry.
No, that's good. So I'm just saying. Yes.
It is hard to be vulnerable with people. And before I get sidetracked, I do want to say they do offer free therapy. Well, I hate to say free. It comes out of your tuition.
Yep.
Office of Student Care. It's the building right next to the Student Union,
Beautiful.
second floor. Office of Student Care, free therapy. You can get your consultation there.
Yeah, and they're fantastic.
They are. I utilize it. Just had my last appointment today. Very
Congratulations.
sad.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
but
That's a big step.
Everybody needs help.
Yeah.
And as
Everybody.
they said in the movie Spider-Man of Tobey Maguire, Mary Jane said, everybody needs help sometimes, Peter, even Spider-Man.
Yep.
And
true.
so do you.
Even
So do me.
Yep.
We're all
Even
broken.
exercise science students.
Yes.
Yes.
Preach.
As strong as we are. No.
Yeah, but it's hard to find that support system.
Yes, it
Speaking for myself, because I've watched enough podcasts and heard myself talk enough to say, people, But with me and, just a lot of people, it's hard to reach out for support. Who wants to be vulnerable?
Yeah.
'Cause I'll speak for men. We are taught and grown up to be strong.
Yeah.
And we are very weak. We're just as weak as everybody else. Men, women alike, we're human.
Yeah.
But we're taught to be strong. And there's this stigma, this toxic masculinity in a way that keeps us from being vulnerable. So we just all end up becoming like Batman.
Yeah.
But not in a good way.
No.
We just hide our problems.
No.
Not a good way,
We-
depressed in a
Talk to
cave kind of
somebody.
way.
Yeah, no, I talked to me and my first girlfriend, it was like 3 years ago. We're good friends now and just friends. I know people always ask me like, you guys are just friends now? I'm like, yes, we are. We are just
healthy.
friends.
That's
It's
good.
okay to have that.
Yeah,
Right.
really good.
Yeah. But she was
Cool.
telling me about, even now we talk, she tells me about her experience with her exes after me. And I really do feel bad for a lot of females. I do believe women do have it worse in relationships and finding love compared to men, a man finding someone who will love them, like a woman.
Yeah.
And speaking for men, we do not like to open up about our feelings.
Yeah.
Because it's very vulnerable, and we were taught to be strong mentally and physically, so we kind of weaponize it, and it turns into pride. And
Yeah.
the more pride we have, the more shame we have, and we just hide that shame with our pride. So back to what you said,
That's an
reaching out for
interesting
support.
perspective. I love that.
Thank you. I learned that from my therapist, Mike.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mike.
that's great.
Thank you, Mike.
I learned something from therapy, huh?
I mean, it really is all of us. But I think it comes back to that conversation of what is your foundation,
Yes.
and what do you believe about your identity? What do you believe about
Correct.
What your morals and values are, the foundation of your life, and we go to a Christian university, and so you bring up how does your spiritual life impact
Right.
what comes out, right? What flows out. It's
Yes.
the Bible verse that says, it's out of the heart that the life flows.
Correct.
Your words, your actions, everything comes from that. And so circles right back to wellness and your foundation, because it's just so important.
Yes.
And I really like what you say about support. Honestly, I was expecting create a study schedule and
Oh, gosh,
stick
no.
to it.
Cut it out.
And I'm so much that type of person where I'm like, just give me the step 1, 2, and 3 equals 4, and then I'll be good. But I really love that about support, because it is so true. And
Yeah.
it was calling me out because I am the worst with that. But I love that. And you have a testimony that speaks to that, of
Yes.
your support system through going through the absolute unimaginable, and then also doing your master's while you're doing that. I think that's really cool.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is only the beginning for you, so.
Yeah. But I'm grateful.
That's really cool.
I'm grateful. We're supposed to have trials and tribulations,
Yeah.
we are supposed to. And you've just got to find a solid ground for your feet.
Yeah.
Or create it for that matter. But create it with things that you need.
Yeah.
Create it with support, create it with love, create it with, resources, create it with time management, accountability, self-discipline.
Yeah.
Create it off of your morals and values, and make sure that everyone who's involved aligns with that,
Yeah.
or supports it for that matter, right? All of those things. So, when we talk, you mentioned something about self-identity. It kind of just clicked to me, right? So for those who don't know, I coach track and field at La Jolla High School out in Avondale. So I love my track team. Shout out to you guys. Can't wait to see you guys in February. Whoop, whoop. So go Lobos. I'm the sprint coach. So I'm the head girls coach, but then when we break down into events, I oversee all the sprinters, so boys and girls, and then I oversee the relay teams as well. So those guys coming in, they've never ran before. You know what I mean? Most of them haven't, right? They just think this is something fun to do, right? Until they step out on that track, and then it's a whole different game.
Yeah.
And, our youth, what I have seen in my first season, because I'm going into my second season, what I saw in that first season was a lot of struggle with acceptance. A lot of hard, back and forth with one another, but really it was within themselves.
Yeah.
Like trying to fit in with this group, right? Because these are the cool kids, right? Or if they're not cool, they're the faster kids. So I'm trying to be in that crew, right? Or like, all these things. And, there's a lot of changes that those kiddos go through. Yeah. And, these guys are having to be literally student athletes, right? Like, this is where we actually become student athletes, right? Like, fine, if you did sports in grade school like I did, cool. Like, my student athlete journey started a little earlier, right? But if you didn't, and this is like your first time, they are already being exposed on how to manage their studies and whatever sports they decide to play throughout their high school careers. So, I tell my athletes, like, listen, you're a student athlete first, right? Your studies come first, right? If you can't come to practice, you better be in tutoring, right? But I don't give them any slack when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, get it in, get it done, lock in. Because if you have to teach this now, right? And it seems harsh. And sometimes I go home and I'm like, dang, I was kind of mean today. But I do it because I care. And I do it because I want them to succeed when they get older. And maybe they choose college. Maybe they don't choose college, right? And that's totally up to them, and that's totally fine. But be a coachable human, not just a coachable athlete.
Absolutely.
Be a coachable human. Be teachable, right? If you're going to step into a job, right, or be hired for a position, be able to speak to people, right? Like, have people skills, be able to write, be able to read properly, like, be able to have a professional conversation, right? Those kinds of things. And, be able to handle situations that may occur, right? Whether that's customer service or whatever. It has to be beyond their sport, So I tell them, like, if you're not going to be taught this in school or at home, I'll teach it to you here. Because I'm going to tell you now, okay? A hard head make a soft bottom, okay? That's what you don't want.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that
That's
before.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Totally.
It's country.
You're like the female Coach Carter.
Yeah, okay. So, but I tell them, like, look, like, I'm going to teach you self-discipline out here.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to teach you,
It goes way deeper.
Yeah, it goes deeper than that. I'm going to teach you time management, right?
That's fantastic.
I will teach you how to hold yourself accountable. Okay? Like, and I will teach you to want more for yourself. Right? I tell my athletes all the time, it's a willingness. You have to be willing to come out here every day at 3 p.m. and get it done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're struggling, I'm not just your coach. You can come and talk to me too. We can be off the track. Yo, coach, this is what's going on.
Right.
Okay. How can I help you? That's always my next response.
Yeah.
You come to me with something, how can I help you? How can I help? Because that's what I'm here for. And these kids need that. Like, a lot of kids in our youth right now don't have those strong foundations. Their support system is not there, right? Some of these kids are having to work through high school to help their own household. It's really sad and it's tough, right? So, when you're asking them to come to practice, stay on top of their studies, but then they have to do things to actually, upkeep a household or help their family or whatever. Yeah, they're going to struggle.
On top of figuring out their identity.
That's
who
what I'm
they
saying.
are. Yeah.
And who they are, right?
Absolutely.
So, when they come to the track, hey, how are you?
Yeah, totally.
Who are you? How are you and who are you? And who do you want to be?
That's what makes a great coach, though.
Thank you.
Yes.
And how can I get you there?
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? How can I help you do that? Right? Like, so I try to put a lot of things in perspective for my athletes.
Yeah.
Like,
Wonderful.
listen, you're a sprinter out here, okay? But know that you also can crack a joke out here and be yourself out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can lock in and be serious, right? And rest time, hey, you might, like, I don't know, take my whistle and run with it, right? I mean, you'll get an extra rep, but, what I'm saying is that, like, we've got to be able to allow our youth to explore and expand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got to be able to do that.
Because that's just life.
Yeah.
That's
And you
just
have to give them the
change.
space to do that. We have to be a safe space. Be a safe adult for these kids.
For sure.
You know? So all in all, like that's what I say to that about foundation and being mindful and well-being and just being who you are and but standing in that conviction, right? Like just being like, look, this is who I am and it is what it is.
If you take care of your mental well-being, it will help you in the quality of work that you are doing. Because from my experience, I still do it. Even during finals week right now, I feel like I'm just crashing out.
Yeah. Yes.
And if you just bury your feelings and say we have stuff to do,
Yeah.
it will catch up to you eventually.
Right.
And for me, and I know other people struggle with this too, people I've known, they just let it build and build and build, just put off to the side. I have stuff to do. I can't worry about my feelings. And then it all just blows up on you, on me, you know. And you just go tanking down to the point where now you can't focus on work. Now you can't focus on going to the gym, your relationships with your friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be, your kids. You just need to focus on yourself because you let it get that far.
Yeah.
So taking care of your well-being does help with the quality of your work, whatever it is.
100%.
So that's good as a coach that you are doing that. And that's definitely what a lot of, not just coaches, but everybody needs to be doing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, you know, you've just got to, we have to help mold these kids, their character, right? You know, and if you're gonna help, then just help them. Like I don't even know how else to say that. Like you have to want to do it because you care about them.
Absolutely.
You know, and
when these kids recognize at such a young age that they need to be coachable in every aspect of their life, they're going to carry that into college and they're going to see such a greater success than A's and B's.
Yeah.
That's one lesson that I've learned so much, like coming back into school after a 2-year break, thinking that like I had failed, I would never get back to school. Like it had so many like negative things put on me. One thing that I really came to realize was, one, your studying can wait for 15 minutes for you to do a Bible time, do your prayer time, do some journaling.
Yes.
It can absolutely wait. And doing that daily, like, is life-changing. Like, I feel it so deeply when I miss that, right?
Good.
So that's number one. Also, number two is just that your success cannot and should not be determined by your grade level. I mean, it's really encouraging. This is going to sound weird at first, so stick with me. It's really encouraging for me to hear that you had a counselor reach out to you and say, hey, go retake those classes and get A's, like get better grades. Because it's like, you are such a successful, confident woman.
Thank you.
I am so just like,
I was like, oh.
I
second that.
I really just am so, just so glad to be having this conversation with you because, I mean, I've had so many moments of self-doubt where it's like I'm talking in class, I'm like, oh man, I did so good on that exam. Oh, what'd you get? Oh, I got like an 82. Well, I don't know. It's just a random number. And like, oh, that's awful. I'm so sorry. You know, and you like hear this, and it's just this
I was
nature.
happy with the 82.
It's all relative.
Right. It's just this nature. And I think, you know, when you place success on something different, then all of a sudden you see like, oh wow, there's a bigger picture in front of me. And even just for me to hear your story, everybody's path in this field is so different.
Yes.
I swear I have not heard the same story twice.
Yeah, and you won't.
Genuinely haven't.
And you won't. You really won't.
Yeah.
You know, it's, well, first of all, thank you. And secondly, like in terms of self-doubt, right? Like I've had that self-doubt, right? The biggest thing I've ever, I guess, no, I shouldn't say that. I have a takeaway from my jump coach in college. Her name is Kayla Todnum. Hi, Kayla. What up, Coach K? Miss you, girl. There was something. I know, every shout out.
Shout outs. Yeah.
I'll just input a picture.
Yes, please. She said something to me. I want to say I had went to my first nationals, and I started out as a JUCO. So I went to Glendale Community College my first year before I got recruited here. And I had hurt my ankle, like in one of my jump attempt. And I wanted to finish. I had one more jump left. And we were we were talking and I was just like really down on myself. And I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe I just sprained my ankle just now. Like I came into this nationals and finals like feeling really good, ready to take it, like, you know, wanted to walk away with something. Right. And I could barely walk. And, you know, and I'm like starting to cry, and all she did was put her hand on my shoulder and told me, stay encouraged. That was it. Like, stay encouraged. Those 2 words changed my entire life. Literally, like beyond that meet. Changed my entire life. Like, I have so many influential coaches. Like, you know, Bruce Frankie, for instance, you know, he was like our assistant sprints coach. Love that guy to death. Like, oh my God, I actually wouldn't be the leader that I am today if it wasn't for him. You know, he walked me through a lot of stuff, and he believed in me as an athlete and what I was gonna do after track. And I just love him so much. Love you, Coach Frankie. So, you know, things like that. But those 2 words, stay encouraged. Just crazy.
It was like a light bulb moment for you.
It was a light bulb. That's what it is.
I was going to say, did it kind of piss you off in the moment, though?
Yes. Just a little bit. Because I'm like, stay encouraged is not going to help my ankle.
Why didn't I think of that, Coach?
Like, oh, yeah, I'm better now. No.
But I actually jumped my last jump, and I took home like a... It's not a plaque. It was more like a certificate. Of course. I did place.
That's amazing.
I placed still. So even saying stay encouraged. And I think in that moment, that was all she could really say, because she understood. She was also an athlete, and she understood. She understood there was going to be no change in my mind, and that I had to have the willingness to take my last attempt. I was either just going to scratch it and say, you know what, no, this hurts too much, or I was going to suck it up, grind my teeth, and jump. And I chose to jump. And I cannot thank her enough for saying those 2 words. Like, I literally have it ready in, like, I have a tattoo book. Of, like, all my future tattoos. I'm literally getting that tatted because that stuck with me. And absolutely. It, you know, it's stuck with me.
My fault. I didn't realize we were over time.
You're good. Somebody has the room at 8:15, so time to wrap up.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. Yeah, that stuck with me, and I tell my students that at the end of every semester. Like, whatever path that things take you guys down, like, just stay encouraged. Okay? Stay encouraged.
Put that on a t-shirt.
I know. You guys are going to hear me say this on Thursday, because I always do, like, a speech on finals day. So, you know, but stay encouraged. So.
Love that. Well,
It's a great way to end it.
I did not realize we were already like an hour and a half, 2 hours in.
Oh, me neither. I had my phone down this whole time.
Yeah, no, we got so into that. That's why I love. That's why I love these podcasts, man. I love it. Now I'm gonna go back to suffering and studying for this.
Oh, you guys will be fine.
But Lesilia Foster, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
Thank you.
I hope you guys all enjoyed that. And once again, Kaylin, who is new on this, she has her own podcast, Personal Belongings by Kaylin Elaine. I'll put it up here. Go subscribe to that. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
I always forget. What do you do with thumbnail? So everyone just like make a post for the camera.
Yes.
1.
Wait, are we peace signing? What are we doing?
We can do whatever we want. As long as it's a good thumbnail. That's all that matters.
Okay, I'm doing lopes up.
Right.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, that's a good one. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Perfect. See you guys in the next one.
Great.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome.